Minnesota Falcons and the Green Bay Packers. Here's where we start all the teasers, guys. But not the teaser leg you would think, because this line has flipped. It is now a 1.5 in favor of the Vikings. The Packers were 1.5 favorites earlier in the week. 41.5 to 42 is your total here. Steven, I have the Vikings up to 7.5. I feel of all the teaser legs I have this week, this one could be the one that I'm a little less confident in, mainly because TJ Hawkinson's nicked up for them. He is such a big part of this offense now that Justin Jefferson isn't in there. I get Addison has looked spectacular, but we know these one-dimensional teams sometimes it's not that great to when teams know exactly who to focus on. So that being said, I just can't see the Packers winning at margin. I was glad to take the glad to take the Vikings up. It's not available anymore. If you wanted to lay it with them even, I don't hate it. I got to be honest. Like I think Jordan Love is a bottom 10, 12 quarterback in the NFL, might end up being a bottom 8 quarterback in the NFL. And with that, like, you know what you're getting in the Vikings, right? You just know what you're getting. Like, you have a proven commodity against one that's not. And I know people love to hate on the Vikings and regression came back to get them and all this stuff. But it's like, dude, it's a proven commodity with Kirk Cousins. It's a proven commodity with this defensive side. They're going to blitz your ass off. It just is what it is. Like, you at least know what you're getting with the Vikings. And I can't say the same with the Packers.
I have a theory that, first of all, you and I agreed that the Vikings rating coming into the season had gone too far. They were going way too aggressive in saying the regression was coming for the Vikings. And then they had a lot of bad luck the first month of the season, and their preseason rating got downgraded even more, despite the fact that they were moving the ball at ease and continue to move the ball really efficiently passing. So if you look at this matchup with the Packers, on the season, the Vikings have a 0.8 net yards per play advantage over the Packers so far this year. And if you read Mo Nawara's yards per play article, the industry standard equation, you divide that by 0.15 and you get a spread of what it would be on a neutral field. So that would be like Minnesota 5.3 in this game on a neutral. So home field advantage in Green Bay, maybe 3.25 with some juice. So I'm having a hard time trying to figure out why the market is still so slow to upgrade Minnesota here. I saw enough last week without Justin Jefferson that I don't know why the market didn't come in on Minnesota. I should have bet Minnesota +7, considering that they were only 3.5 against the Chiefs. But apparently everybody thought Justin Jefferson was a big deal. Jordan Addison showed up, had the game of his life. And I just think that this rating for Minnesota is still too slow to adjust, and the matchup is fantastic for them. I know the Packers got a pretty clean injury report coming into this, but this Green Bay defense is not inside the top 25 in DVOA, EPA, or success rate stopping the run. Minnesota's 7th in success rate running the ball, and the Green Bay defense is 23rd in success rate stopping the pass, and Minnesota's offense is about league average or higher in the metrics, and that's counting some EPA that's crushing them for the early season turnovers. So I'm going to buy Minnesota at this point, despite this being a road game, and I'm fully with you that Jordan Love just is not there yet and is not reliable, and a lot of this has been garbage time comebacks for his stats and the EPA numbers we see with him.
Adam, a lot of the headlines this week, and I get it, you need clickbait. You need people to come in and you need to be able to read your stuff, but a lot of the stuff has been weather's coming. Here it is. It's like they're looking at the lows in Green Bay. It doesn't matter what the low is. They're playing this game in the middle of the day. It's going to be 40 degrees. I mean, yeah, is that cold to me? It's freezing. I wouldn't go outside in that. But these NFL players play in 40 degrees. It's not that big of a deal. So, I mean, everyone's like sitting here talking about like, here's our first, like, cold game of the year. It's like, nah, man, it's not even close to a cold game at all. Like, temperature in the 40s, if you go back historically and look, has basically had no impact whatsoever on scoring at all. Like, you get to 20 degrees. Yes, scoring goes down because you can't feel your fingers, but it's 40 degrees. These guys are going to be fine. So don't buy into all of the nonsense you might hear between now and Sunday of it's getting cold in Green Bay and like Minnesota's not going to be able to handle it. It's like, it's 40 degrees. They'll be fine.
I am going to take 4 letters away from what I usually call the Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback, because I've always thought of him as kind of average, maybe just a little bit better than brand name. And so I've always thought of him as Kirkland Cousins. I've always thought of him as this is what you could get at Costco, where it's slightly better than average, but it's not really all that great. If you could get a good brand name, you would choose that instead. And Kirkland, I'm sorry, you're Kirk. You are Kirk Cousins so far this season. 4th by PFF grade. Pick the metric you want to use overall, and Kirk Cousins has looked good. And big part of the reason for that is that the Minnesota line has looked really good in front of him too. Kirk Cousins hasn't been under a lot of pressure, so you haven't gotten a lot of the usual Kirk variance when it comes to turnovers under pressure. So overall, I don't think that Green Bay is the team that's going to change that this week. I think Minnesota will still be efficient. The thing you have to realize is that without Justin Jefferson, they're less explosive on offense. They have to be more methodical in terms of how they move the football. And to what Matt said, what scares me about Green Bay, a team that I was fairly high on at the beginning of the season, is that you would expect with a young quarterback like Jordan Love that things would progress in a positive direction, and they've gone the opposite. This Green Bay offense has actually regressed over the first few weeks. They haven't had the offensive line the way they want, but I mean, very few teams have had the offensive line the way that they want. And the only reason that Green Bay was even mildly competitive in that game in Denver last week was a fluky touchdown that bounced off a receiver's hands on a horrendous throw and still ended up becoming a touchdown for Green Bay. So play Minnesota any way you like, to echo what the guys have already said. However, I think the other way you can get into this game, if you're someone who doesn't buy it as much with Kirk, if you're worried about Justin Jefferson, then I would probably look at it and say, I don't have any problem playing under 42, because Minnesota is going to have to matriculate down the field as opposed to explode the way they did with Justin Jefferson. And Green Bay has not been able to score more than 20 points in the last 4 weeks.
Couple of key injuries on the Green Bay side as well. Jair Alexander, Devondre Campbell, both of those guys listed as questionable after only getting limited practices this week. So we'll see if they're able to go out there. Of course, a huge deal if both of those guys can't go on the defensive side. Yeah, Steven?
Quick reaction to this hot take. Tell me if you like it or not. Cousins is top 4 in the NFL in passer rating. He's going to be at least 2nd in the league in passing yards after this week. He's pretty high up there in touchdowds. Would you
smell an offensive player of the year coming? I hear smell an offensive player of the year coming. Is that it?
Would you sprinkle some lunch money on Kirk Cousins 130 to 1 to win MVP?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is why I ask these things. This is why I ask you guys first.
No. They won't have the record to get him into that discussion. And even though we know like sometimes MVP should not necessarily be completely about record, because a quarterback can't play defense as well. But they won't have the record to do it.